An Iranian submarine fired a live torpedo at the USS Nimitz. What happened in the next 90 seconds shocked the world.
At exactly 2:17 in the afternoon, in the Gulf of Oman, 68 Iranian sailors inside a Russian-built submarine made a decision that would become a famous example of why old weapons can still be dangerous. The Iris Tariq, one of Iran's 3 working Kilo-class diesel-electric submarines, had been following the USS Nimitz's aircraft carrier strike group for 41 hours. Looking through a periscope that was designed during the Reagan years, the captain watched the carrier's wake leave white trails across the blue water. Range, 11,200 meters. Direction, steady. Speed, constant. The math looked perfect. It wasn't. The Nimitz was not alone. 87 nautical miles to the southwest, a Virginia-class attack submarine called the USS Mississippi had been tracking the Tariq from the moment it left Bandar Abbas 6 days earlier, recording every valve sound, every spin of the propeller, and every time the diesel engines ran to charge the batteries. The Americans already knew the exact position of the Iranian submarine before the Tariq's own navigator had even finished plotting the route. The idea of surprise only existed inside the Tariq's hull. Submarine warfare follows hard rules. You cannot destroy what you cannot reach. You cannot reach what is already watching you from angles you will never see. The Iranians were using a submarine built in 1992, armed with Soviet torpedoes from the 1970s, going up against a carrier protected by tracking systems that treat the ocean like a three-dimensional chessboard. The technology gap between the two sides was not measured in years. It was measured in generations. The Kilo-class submarine is solid Cold War engineering stuck inside a maintenance nightmare. Iran bought 3 of these submarines from Russia between 1992 and 1996 for about $600 million each. They are 74 meters long, weigh 2,325 tons on the surface, and use diesel-electric engines. The design gives up speed and range in exchange for quietness. The fastest it can go underwater is about 17 knots. It can dive to a depth of 240 meters. The outside of the hull is covered with special rubber tiles made to absorb enemy sonar signals. But Iran has a hard time keeping those tiles in good shape in the warm, harsh water of the Persian Gulf. Large sections have broken down, creating sounds that make the submarines easier to detect than the Soviet designers ever planned. The Tariq's crew was fooling themselves in many ways. They believed they had not been spotted because the American surface ships had not changed course. They saw silence as proof they were invisible. They did not understand that modern anti-submarine warfare works differently. You do not reveal that you have found the enemy until you are ready to act. You track them. You record everything. You wait. Inside the Tariq's tight weapons room, torpedo tube 1 was filled with seawater. The weapon loaded inside was a Test 71 Mk, the export version of Russia's wire-guided heavy torpedo. This is technology from 1981, sold to countries that cannot afford newer weapons. The torpedo weighs 1,820 kilograms and carries a 205 kilogram explosive warhead. It travels at 40 knots using silver zinc batteries and is steered through a copper wire connected back to the submarine. Its maximum range is about 20 kilometers at slow speed. The Test 71's guidance system works by sending steering instructions through a copper wire that unrolls behind the torpedo like fishing line. The submarine's fire control computer sends directions down the wire, pointing the weapon at the target. When the torpedo gets close enough, it cuts the wire and turns on its own active sonar to find and hit the target on its own. In theory, this gives the firing submarine control for most of the attack. In practice, the wire breaks if the submarine moves too sharply or if the torpedo passes through water temperature layers that the 1970s designers never thought about. The Tariq's crew had never fired a real Test 71 in combat before. Their last training exercise using practice torpedoes had taken place in 2019. 2:22 in the afternoon. The order was given in Farsi. Tube 1, fire. Compressed air pushed the Test 71 out of its tube. The torpedo's motor turned on. Wire began unrolling from both the torpedo and the submarine. The Iranian fire control team sent steering commands through the copper wire, guiding their weapon toward the carrier's large heat signature 11 kilometers away. The American response was not a reaction. It was already in place. 90 seconds before the Iranian torpedo launched, the USS Holly, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer sitting 14 nautical miles from the Nimitz, had already sent out an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter. This was not a reaction. It was a planned move. The destroyers and SQS-53C bow-mounted sonar had detected the sound of the Tariq's torpedo tube filling with water. That sound had traveled through the water at 1,500 meters per second. The Holly's sonar operators identified the sound within 7 seconds. The MH-60R helicopter carries equipment that turns it into a flying anti-submarine platform. Its N/AQS-22 dipping sonar lowers a sensor on a cable that can listen at depths of up to 460 meters. The helicopter also carries sonobuoys, which are small listening devices that parachute into the water and send sound data back to the aircraft. Each sonobuoy costs about $1,400. The MH-60R can carry dozens of them. The helicopter's computer system processes sound data in real time and shares target information with surface ships and submarines through secret data links. Within 180 seconds of the torpedo launch, the helicopter had dropped 8 sonobuoys in a grid pattern between the Tarik and the Nimitz. These sensors created an invisible fence of sound. The Test-71 had to pass through this monitored water to reach its target. The Americans were not guessing where the torpedo was. They were watching it move through the water. The carrier's defense shifted from routine to active. The N/SLQ-25 Nixie torpedo decoy was deployed from the back of the ship. This is a noise-making device towed behind the ship on a cable about 2,000 feet long. It makes sounds designed to copy a ship's noise pattern, tricking acoustic homing torpedoes into chasing it instead of the real ship. The Nixie works against torpedoes that follow propeller and engine sounds. The Test-71 does not care about those sounds. It is steered by a wire until the final moments. It follows commands from a human operator looking at a screen, not from automated sensors that can be tricked by decoys. This is the problem with wake homing and wire-guided Soviet torpedoes that defense experts have worried about since the Cold War. Normal defenses do not work. You cannot trick a weapon that is being steered by a person who is watching your actual location. But you can destroy the guidance system. The USS Mississippi is a completely different type of naval weapon. Virginia-class attack submarines are built on the idea that being quiet is what makes you deadly. At 377 feet long with an underwater weight of 7,835 tons, the Mississippi is bigger than the Tarik, but far, far quieter. Its pump-jet propulsion system removes the noise that normal propellers make. Its hull coating absorbs sonar signals. Its S-9G nuclear reactor produces 40,000 shaft horsepower without ever needing to surface and run loud diesel engines to recharge batteries. Its BQQ-10 sonar system uses computer programs that can tell the difference between a group of shrimp and a submarine at 40 nautical miles. The Mississippi, still tracking from deep water, did not fire torpedoes. Instead, it turned on something quieter and far more powerful. Its BQQ-10 sonar array sent out a single active ping at full power, aimed directly at the Tarik. The burst of sound hit the Iranian submarine like a physical punch. Inside the Tarik, the ping was loud enough to shake equipment and temporarily hurt the hearing of anyone not wearing ear protection. More importantly, it told the Iranian captain exactly what he had been afraid of but had not confirmed. An American attack submarine was right behind him. Close enough to hear him breathe. Close enough that its Mark 48 ADCAP torpedoes could reach his engine room in under 90 seconds. The Mark 48 ADCAP is what you get when you spend decades perfecting a single weapon. These torpedoes weigh 3,500 pounds and carry a 650-pound explosive warhead. They travel at speeds above 55 knots using auto-fuel 2 monopropellant. Their maximum range is over 50 kilometers. The guidance system uses fiber optic wire that does not snap like copper wire, along with active and passive sonar that can pick out targets even in crowded underwater environments, plus computer intelligence that lets the torpedo search on its own if the wire is cut. The Mark 48 is built to explode under a ship's hull, creating a bubble that breaks the ship's back. The Iranian captain had a choice with no good options. Keep going and die, or cut the wire and surface. He cut the wire. The Test-71 torpedo, now blind, began its final search pattern. Its active sonar turned on, pinging rapidly, looking for a target. The weapon circled, searching for the massive hull it had been aimed at. But there was a physics problem. The torpedo seeker, designed in 1981, could not tell the difference between the Nimitz's complex heat trail and the layered water temperatures of the Gulf of Oman. After 6 minutes of searching, the torpedo's battery started to run out. Its motor slowed down. Its computer recognized it had missed. Then it blew up. The explosion happened 340 meters from the Nimitz's right rear side. The blast sent a pressure wave outward through the water. Not close enough to crack the hull or break the keel, but close enough to shake the ship and send shockwaves through its rooms. Sailors felt the deck shudder. Alarms went off at damage control stations. But the carrier's double hull soaked up the shock without any structural damage. The explosion's energy spread into the ocean instead of tearing through steel. The damage check took 14 minutes. Minor flooding in one ballast tank. Hull intact. Engines working. Flight deck status green. The Nimitz kept moving without slowing down. The Tariq surfaced 4 minutes after the blast. 68 Iranian sailors stepped onto a rust-stained deck and stared at an empty horizon. No American ships were visible. No aircraft overhead. Just the shame of knowing they had been tracked the entire time, allowed to fire, and then beaten without a single shot fired at them. The USS Mississippi followed the Iranian submarine all the way back to Bandar Abbas. Every sound recorded. Every move noted down. Every weakness documented. The Virginia-class submarine never showed its exact position or fired a weapon. It did not need to. But the story was not over. 43 hours later, another Iranian Kilo-class submarine suffered serious flooding during training exercises in the Mediterranean. Iran's official statement blamed a mechanical failure. Western intelligence experts noticed the timing. The Mississippi had sent detailed targeting data on all 3 Iranian Kilo-class submarines to 5th Fleet Command right after the Gulf incident. The message was clear. We know where all your submarines are. We can reach them whenever we want. The cost breakdown tells the story of strategic embarrassment in simple numbers. Iran used one test 71 Mk torpedo with a replacement cost of about $500,000. The full cost of the 6-day patrol, including fuel, crew, and support, came to roughly $2.7 million. The submarine's crew will need mental health support after being hit by the close-range sound of an American active sonar ping. Future training must now account for the fact that Iranian submarine movements are completely visible to American tracking systems. The political cost of proving that their submarine force is no real threat to American carrier operations is impossible to measure. The United States used 1 active sonar ping. Electrical cost, almost nothing. 8 sonobuoys at $1,400 each, totaling $11,200. Helicopter flight operations, standard carrier group budget. Total American cost for stopping the attack, under $15,000 in supplies used. 0 weapons fired. 0 casualties. 0 structural damage to the carrier. Result, complete destruction of Iranian confidence in submarine attacks against American carrier groups. The real calculation is not about money. It is about strategic warning measured in recorded sounds. Every noise the Tariq made during its 6-day patrol was recorded and studied. Iranian submarine battle plans are now stored in American targeting databases. Future encounters will not need active sonar pings. The next Iranian captain who tries this mission will surface to find Mark 48 ADCAP torpedoes already placed in his escape routes, fired from submarines he never detected. This is modern naval warfare with no myths attached. It is not dramatic surface battles with visible explosions. It is tracking systems that find threats before they are launched. It is sound sensors that follow submarines across entire ocean basins. It is torpedoes that can wait for hours, sitting in pre-calculated kill zones waiting for targets to swim in. The Iranians brought a weapon system from the 1970s to a fight controlled by technology that makes the ocean as clear as glass. The Nimitz's carrier strike group continued its patrol. Planned flight operations started back up 22 minutes after the explosion. The incident was written up, reported, and classified. For the carrier's crew of 4,500, it was just a Tuesday afternoon. For Iran's naval command, it was proof that their submarine force operates under constant American watching. Every move tracked. Every action recorded. Every weakness used against them. The math of deterrence does not need explosions. It needs certainty. The certainty that trying to attack guarantees being found, being stopped, and permanently losing the ability to operate in secret. Iran's Kilo-class submarines are not invisible hunters moving through dark water. They are tagged animals swimming in a monitored tank, alive only because the top predators choose to watch rather than kill. The Tariq returned to port with a crew that understood they had survived because of American restraint, not Iranian skill. That knowledge destroys operational confidence more effectively than any torpedo ever could. You can fix damaged ships. You cannot bring back the belief that surprise is still possible when the enemy has proven it sees everything. If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe and share this video. Your support helps bring more untold stories of modern military operations to light.